Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another episode of Kickback Comics. My name is Antonio.
My name is Ben, and y'all are listening to a comic book podcast
By two guys who have not read a lot of comics, but are looking to get involved, read some cool stories, surfboard through the cosmos, understand our deeds and misdeeds, and maybe even experience some redemption, maybe.
Yep. We're surfing through space.
That's what we're doing.
We're reading comics. We're doing a book club. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
We've got a great conversation ahead of us here. We
Yes.
read Silver Surfer Black.
What a banger.
Yeah, another. We're on a. Not only are
I was about to say that.
yeah, we're on a chain of great books, and also sort of on a chain of them being interconnected, which is part of what's fun about comics in the first place. But we're sort of freshly experiencing that, like having villains and characters even on the same timeline be crossing over. So that's sort of like one of the exciting components going on here.
Yeah, I think that's a super exciting. I mean, you know, we'll get into this whenever else too, but we have some characters, like you said, that we've seen before, and we'll talk about it too. But I love the very comicness of seeing characters being drawn and colored and whatever else differently across these comics. But anyway, we're going to get into Silver Surfer Black. Banger.
Also, real quick, if you haven't yet, go give us a follow on Instagram at kickbackcomics_pod. We every other week when we post the episode, we post some of the iconic panels and pages that we're talking about in the podcast. So if you want to check those out, if you haven't had an opportunity to pick up or read the book, you can go check them out on Instagram and be part of the conversation there. And also, give us a like, give us a follow on whatever podcast platform you are listening on. We really appreciate that. Give us a review, send it to a friend. Anything you guys feel like you can easily do to support us and get the pod out, we would appreciate it.
We would really appreciate it. Love you. Thanks very much.
All right. Let's jump into the dossier. Let's get it going.
The dossier. All right.
Which is actually funny. We've in Google Docs with our document tabs, we've hit 100 tabs.
That's right. We're really tabbing it up. We're putting in that work. You know what I'm saying? So
it's about to be dossier, our second dossier.
yeah, dossier 2.
Dossier 2.
Electric Boogaloo. All right, get us into this Silver Surfer Black, my friend.
Yeah, so this trade paperback collects Silver Surfer Black from 2019, issues 1 through 5. It's a Marvel miniseries written by Donny Cates, with art by Trad Moore and colors by Dave Stewart and lettering by Clayton Cowles. It has a beginning, a middle, and end, which is sort of rare in comic book world. Obviously, this is a chapter within the larger tapestry of the main Marvel canon, which is kind of cool that we're dipping our toes into that more and more these days. But despite it being a piece of the larger puzzle, there's, these 5 issues sort of tell their own contained story, which is very satisfying for us in this book club as we're jumping around and reading, trying out all these little comic snippets.
Yeah. Wait, so this, I didn't even think about this at first, but so the 1 through 5, that's it of this run, or is there more? Oh, wow.
No, well, I think there's more, but it's not, I think.
But it's contained.
Yeah, I think Donny Cates keeps writing it, but it's a different artist.
Ah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, but this was great. We'll give some just like quick Silver Surfer general context for those who did not know. Like myself, I did not know his original name, but Silver Surfer is Norrin Radd, a former herald of Galactus who travels the cosmos using the power cosmic. And there are a lot of philosophical themes. I think that's kind of one of the big takeaways from this. A couple of issues here. One of the big things, right, is this kind of in contrast to a lot of the stuff that we talked about recently, not Venom, for example, which we'll talk about as well, also written by Donny Cates. But this is very much a cosmic, universal thing, not so much like the street crime type of thing that we've seen in like Moon Knight and wherever else. So this is we're going intergalactic in this one as well.
That's very true. We're in outer space the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't think we're on Earth at all.
No, we're on some planets, but definitely not Earth planets.
We're on some planets. We're on some conscious planets too. Some planets that are awakened in certain ways, which we'll obviously talk about. Let's see some more Silver Surfer context. Silver Surfer was created by, again, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. Shout out the GOATs. Yep. He first debuted in Fantastic Four number 48 in 1966. part of Marvel's famous Galactus trilogy, which I guess is Fantastic Four 48 through 50. And it introduced Silver Surfer, Galactus, and all of the big cosmic side of Marvel storytelling. And it sounds like from what we researched, Jack Kirby was actually the one who sort of came up with him initially without even discussing it with Stan. So, Galactus is this huge entity that sort of goes planet to planet and destroys them. He absorbs them. So he's sort of like the embodiment of a black hole or something like that.
That's an interesting. That's a good point. I never thought of it like that, but that does make a lot of sense. Yeah.
And the Silver Surfer's role is basically the herald of Galactus. He pulls up ahead of time and is like, hey, everybody, hello, nice to meet you. Your whole world is going to be consumed very soon. So
just letting you know.
Prepare yourselves. Make peace before you all die.
Make peace.
It's a pretty tough job.
That's
a tough gig.
Yeah. It's going to weigh on you for sure.
And a lot of that is examined. That's like actually a big part of this book is him really grappling with like he's not an evil guy. He's just like, man, my job is for thousands of years to just pull up to a planet, say what up, and then watch the whole planet die.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, I can't remember because I feel like I almost got two things from this. Did his planet get consumed? It did, right?
Yeah.
Right.
His planet got consumed. Another thing that's interesting is which again, as we say, we'll get into later as it comes up in the story, but his wife or lover, partner, whatever, she also is a Silver Surfer. She's like there's like a girl Silver Surfer sometimes.
I see.
So that's why there is example in the most recent Fantastic Four movie, Silver Surfer is a woman.
I see.
And I think part of that is because they are on an alternate timeline. The Fantastic Four movie that just came out with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards and whatever is not in the same universe as the main Marvel continuity. They have to like jump over into our continuity. They're on an alternate Earth than the one that Iron Man and everybody is in.
Very interesting. I did not watch that movie, so that adds a lot of context there. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's fine. It's mid, as you know.
I heard
it's a solid mid, which is crazy, but. In that movie, Silver Surfer is a woman, and it is the that wife that we see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have her name written down in here somewhere. But
this was the first Silver Surfer thing that I've interfaced with. I've ever read. This is the second time reading it. I did read this when I was first getting into comics in New York in that just tail end of COVID era that I've touched on before in some of our episodes, but I was really excited to revisit this and read it with you and get to talk about it because it is the art is probably some of the most distinctive and unique art that we've looked at. Period. Hands down.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's like taking that kind of like crazy issue from Moon Knight and then like putting that on like steroids and then putting it in the 70s.
Right. Very 70s. Yeah. Very psychedelic imagery. And not in the sort of like cheesy way that people say where it's like, oh, this looks hip. Like,
it's not a bunch of like flowers and like whatever else. It's like
it's truly everything is like organic and it feels like everything is like the structures of cells and
things are like stretching and it's like seeing like time. I think that's actually the really interesting thing of making this kind of like universal and cosmic and like these really strong beings, right? Is that like we're seeing like the time and space like pull and stretch and like I feel like that's kind of the interesting maybe I mean who knows, maybe that's what they were trying to achieve with some of the way that they did this art, but really really incredible. This is, I don't know, man, I keep on recommending all these things because we've just been very lucky with picking out some really really good ones, but this is another one. If you're an artist especially, go check this out. It's super cool, super distinct. Crazy colors, crazy art in general. Check it out for sure.
This is another one of those books that we read on Comixology. Shout out Comixology.
Thanks for the sponsorship in the future, just letting you know.
Right. But this is definitely one of those where I got to get a physical copy of this at some point.
I was thinking that same thing. Literally before I left, I was like, damn, it's crazy that I don't have a physical copy of this one. So we're going to make it happen.
We'll be on the lookout. You know what? That's actually something we could do today too. If we want to go, we could pop over to North Hollywood and check out that comic book shop I found.
True.
I've been trying to find like a local home based comic book shop for the kickback comics
Yeah.
crew over here, and trying to support. Obviously, I'm not a Barnes and Noble's hater. We're in the world of Amazon and online shopping and everything, where supporting your local Barnes and Noble like is a thing, which is insane.
Right.
But even more than that, I would rather find an independent comic book shop for us to be buying this shit from. So
Let's do it.
yeah.
That sounds sick.
But yeah, so closing up our overall thoughts and everything here, is there any other overarching stuff? I mean, I think we
covered, I think, all of the themes. I think the only thing maybe to go through now is just like the creative team. And, so we've talked about Donny Cates before. We've read a couple of things. If you've been listening for a little bit, God Country, Venom, which we did just recently. And there are a couple. There's a couple great ones on here, but those are the ones that we read recently. Really, really great writer. I've enjoyed a lot of the stuff that we've read of Donny Cates. I think that this is, I've loved a lot of the stuff that we read. I think that really the combination of the art and the writing here. I don't know. I really did enjoy his writing in this, and there are these moments, and I think that he does pull from. We talked about this before. There's some quotes that I think he pulled from Stan Lee's original writing. But overall, I think that this is a really, really great work from him. But so Donny Cates doing all this kind of cosmic scale horror elements, mythology stuff that we've seen here and in Venom. And we've got Trad Moore, who's the artist. And again, this is like insanely distinctive artwork, exaggerated movement, elastic anatomy, which is what we talked about, psychedelic imagery. We talked about that as well.
Surreal page layouts,
yes.
too. That's one of the notes here, and something we'll definitely need to make sure we talk about, where this is departing really far from the traditional sort of 3x3 or what have you, traditional comic grid sort of layout. There's some pages where there's no panels at all. The story is just kind of flowing through the art organically. There's other ones where there'll be panels that are in like a 3-dimensional skew, and you can see the Silver Surfer like flying through the panels as time is passing, and really incredible sort of mind-bending,
very mind-bending
layouts.
Absolutely.
Like not only just the imagery and the art presented in sort of a really creative psychedelic fashion, but just the way the story is told through the comic medium is also very creative and interesting and engaging. And
Absolutely. And moving on to our next member of this team here, Dave Stewart, who's doing all the color in this. He's one of the most acclaimed color artists in modern comics. Has won a bunch of Eisner Awards. He's done stuff like Hellboy, Black Hammer, The Umbrella Academy, Batman. Ben was talking about Hellboy earlier. We're definitely going to come back to that.
Hellboy, I think, is my favorite. Like the art and the color in Hellboy is just incredible. Like Hellboy is very cool. Obviously, I knew about him from the movies and stuff when I was a kid. Like I feel like a lot of us have a vague idea of what Hellboy is about, but then actually getting into the comics, it's so much more profound and beautiful and haunting than I think the movies or whatever random media t-shirts you might have seen him on would really convey. And the color is such a big part of that. So I'm really excited when we get there. And yeah, I mean, Black Hammer also amazing colors. I've read some of that as well. So yeah, I mean, Dave Stewart, one of the top of my list for color artists I've read so far.
Yeah, crazy. Clayton Cowles is the letterer for this one. It's kind of crazy. I'm reading through like all of these, and every single one of these people, this person is one of the Marvel's most prominent, whatever it is that they're doing. It's like writer, author, like, so anyway, but
this is an A-team.
This is A-team, yeah. So Clayton Cowles' major work includes Immortal Hulk, Daredevil, Thor, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. These are obviously all like big main characters, barring maybe Daredevil slightly, but obviously Daredevil's big too. But really great lettering. I mean, this is a really amazing coordination of people. I think that's like probably one of the most fascinating things about comics kind of in general to me, right? Because there's so many things like, I mean, this happens with music whenever else too. I think that Ben and I make music, as some of you guys probably know, and I think when I'm making music, a lot of the times there is obviously a collaborative aspect, but with the tools that we have nowadays, it's something that you can do personally, right? But I think that this is such a amazing example of 4 people. Obviously, there's a bigger team in general, but 4 people coming together and really like perfectly bouncing off of each other, right? Where it's like nothing feels like out of place here. It's like four people put their heads together, and it actually became this really cohesive, incredible piece of work that we'll go through today. But so great team, a lot of accomplished people, and yeah, we're gonna get into it. Here we are. All right, here we go. Diving into the issue summaries. We're going to start with, obviously, number 1 here. I'll give us a little summary and then we'll get into it. So, during a battle in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is another kind of branch off of this, we're coming into this from Guardians of the Galaxy, Silver Surfer is pulled into a black hole and thrown into the distant past of the universe. He's stranded billions of years before his own time. He discovers Null, if you remember from our Venom stuff. If you haven't, go check that one out. Null already exists in this primordial darkness and is far stronger than expected. The Surfer ends up attacking him immediately, but is overwhelmed and left drifting through space. His silver form begins to darken. He's kind of like being corrupted. And then the issue establishes the story's central conflict. The Surfer's fighting to preserve hope and light against an ancient force of darkness, which is Null. Pretty crazy stakes from the beginning. What did you think of this one, Ben?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, the art, once you just turn the first page, the art hits you like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, you're like, what am I looking at?
Right. It's so, I think you sort of get used to the art as you go. Like, it's so stylized. I don't want to say it's like, to me, it's not off-putting at all, but I can understand how it's a little shock. Like, you're like, oh, I don't know, I feel about this. Everything's kind of goopy. Everything's kind of organic, which it takes a second to get used to. But I think obviously just like from this pages 2 and 3,
yep,
you get just amazing panel layout, use of color, all these red panels, seeing Galactus like destroying all these worlds, inhaling them, basically these crazy long rectangular panels underneath those 2 pages of the Surfer flying through outer space. It's just very, very striking imagery right off rip. And then seeing him flying out through these like ribbons of time and space, with these, it honestly looks like there's sometimes multimedia, like actual pictures of space,
right,
or
space
something
behind
going on in the
I think
background.
You're probably right, honestly.
But yeah, I mean, the experience of these first few pages is very visually striking immediately. And you see all these other crazy Marvel characters. Like, this is Beta Ray Bill, Antonio.
Yeah, I know, which I had not really, I think we maybe touched on, but I did not obviously know like crazy.
Right. He's a Thor. He's like another weird Thor type character.
It made me think of that with the hammer. You know, he's got his like, it's kind of like the OG Thor kind of costume that this guy's got going on.
Right, exactly. The writing also very cool. Let's see. My name is Norrin Rad, orphan son of Zen La, though I have been known by many names. To some, I am a noble light in the great unending darkness, a defender of the helpless, avenger to those who are lost. I am a friend, an ally, a lover, to some, a savior. I am known by many universe-wide as the Silver Surfer, the sentinel of the spaceways, the herald of Galactus Unchained. But alas, I am known by another secret name, a name spoken briefly, whispered or raging on the dying lips of the forgotten. That name is Death.
Whoa.
Pretty, we're getting
spooky from the rip, for sure. And I mean, I think that one of the things that gives this the weight that it does, right, is understanding Galactus, right? The Silver Surfer kind of goes on to talk about this, and we get this first philosophical thought process that he's having, where he talks about saying, for too long I sat in silence as the devourer brought oblivion to creation. Basically, Galactus is going around consuming planets and worlds, and the Silver Surfer is supposed to be the one, kind of as Ben was saying before, that just rolls up and is like, hey guys, it's about to wrap up, so do whatever you guys got to do, say goodbye to whoever else because it's about to wrap up. And the Silver Surfer kind of is grappling with the fact that these people and these or not even universes, but planets and things like that they've been going around destroying, he feels like they're not deserving of his cold stare, of the stone in action, and he feels horrified to a certain extent of the things that he's seeing, but at the very least so far has not had the opportunity or the agency, the wherewithal to do something about that. but it is weighing on him heavily, and I think that we almost even see him like crying in the beginning of this, which is crazy. But so the Herald of Galactus is having some personal issues, which is interesting.
For sure. Let's see. So narratively speaking, we see him along with a whole ton of characters from that in the whatever's going on in the Guardians of the Galaxy comic at the time. They all are getting ripped out of this black hole, and basically Silver Surfer does everything he can, all of his cosmic power, to get them out of there, and then he goes drifting off through space-time by himself, drifting off into the void, which I think he's drifting for years, and then, as we said, pops out way in the past, millions, I don't know how long.
Probably millions, billions.
Crazy long time in the ancient past. And he has this really cool showdown with these three like guardians
like
of
the
this
sentinels
gate.
Of the,
And they really remind me of art I've seen from like Elden Ring or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It does kind of give that type of vibe. It's like a little bit, I think probably like more colorful maybe than like the Elden Ring stuff, but I totally get what you're saying. It's like these kind of like, I don't even know what word. I mean, it's kind of like silly goofy in a way, but it's really, as we've talked about, like stylized and interesting. But I totally agree with you there, honestly.
But basically, there's this gate. He has this showdown, conflict with them. He uses some of his power cosmic in this absolutely incredible panel where he just blasts all of them with this light. And that's one of the things that we see. It's the first time we see his silver exterior getting changed to black.
Yes.
Where basically when he exerts too much of the power cosmic, which basically he's creating
a star. It's an infant star.
Which is insane. But yeah, so he's manifesting stars, and his hand, the sort of the price, the law of equivalent exchange, as they would say in Full Metal Alchemist, his hand is blackened. And the way that they're depicting that is absolutely beautiful. Basically, it's kind of like, you know, when you pour gasoline on the ground,
right?
And you see
it's like any oil, whatever else mixed with water, and the light refracting off of it. You're so right.
So the way the artist is depicting this is they're sort of doing these amazing collages of color in the negative space. So like there's the black hand, and then in those highlights of the hand is sort of like a gateway into this beautiful morphing color. And that's a technique they use throughout the book to just really remarkable effect, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting, I didn't even realize the fact that this planet is like totally kind of like, not like deep darkness, but it's like gray and cloaked in like when he gets there. And this, I mean, he's literally like creating a sun for this planet, right? He talks about, the infant star I birthed into being from my power cosmic floats into the heavens to bring light back to this world. And then he says, from darkness, light, with light, a price. And that's when he starts seeing, that oil gasoline mixture thing start showing up on his hand, which is pretty wild.
But so basically, he's defeated these three sentinels, and the gate that they were guarding opens, and he gets yanked in there
by somebody who recognizes him, who knows him. That was the thing where I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" Because it says the creature says, "Hello, little son, well met."
And then the final page is this terrifying whole panel of Null, god of the symbiotes.
Yes.
Who we know from the Venom comic we read, this crazy cosmic big bad. And he's just got Silver Surfer by the throat. And he's saying, I am Null. You may call me God.
Yeah, you may call me God. I love this because it's so, this is like, I think, another great kind of splash panel of like this distinctive like art style. Because again, Null, and it's even more fun because we've seen Null before. And we've seen, I think, a much more kind of like, I don't know. I'm gonna use the word serious, and I hope that that does not come off as like liking or disliking one or the other, but a more, or I guess I would say a less kind of psychedelic version of Null is what we saw before,
like out of a horror movie,
right? Exactly, very much on that. And this is a much more like, if we're thinking about. Our boy Scotty right now, Scott McCloud, this is, I think, a much more kind of like cartoonish side of an approach, right? And that's not a negative feeling or whatever else, but it's just super interesting, like the way that like the hair and like the cloaks and all these different things are like flowing in this is very, 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 very stylized.
Everything is very rounded. I think I'll say too, very, very round and organic. Like any time where maybe another artist would make straight, sharp lines, Trad goes for spheres and rounded edges, and it's just it's really remarkable. Obviously, like we said, this first issue we're kind of easing into that, and I think you get more and more comfortable with it as we go, and also he just leans into it to greater and greater and greater effect as the story goes on.
Yeah, I think that you're super right. I mean, it's interesting. This first issue, I think, if you do end up reading this and picking this up, I think that the first issue is maybe the, I don't know, it's not right to say that it's like the quote unquote like hardest to get through. That's not really what I mean to say, but I think like, you kind of have to accept the art and kind of understand where you're coming into this story a little bit, right? Because at first when I'm seeing, I can't remember what his name, but all these other heroes and things like that, and trying to understand like what it is that they're experiencing at first, I think is like, especially through this art style, I think is a little bit, I don't know, daunting is not the right word, but you have to lock in a little bit, I think, to get into this. But then this is a beautiful thing where you once you kind of take on that slight mental load to reframe the way that you're looking at this comic and understand what point of the story you're at, the payoff for that with the rest of these issues, I think is so big.
But yeah, that's how we wrap up issue 1, sort of setting the table for this whole story.
Yeah, simple and sweet. I like that.
And let's jump into issue number 2.
Issue number 2. So, in this one, the Surfer is drifting through the early universe. He's weakened and increasingly becoming corrupted by darkness. He encounters Ego, the living planet, long before Ego becomes this being that Marvel readers know. I think of seeing Ego as like Star-Lord's dad in the Guardian of the Galaxy movies. But anyway, as he basically ends up meeting Ego, Ego tries to guide him toward becoming something better than I guess what he is right now. And meanwhile, Null is continuing to spread his influence through the cosmos, right? Null, again, like he said, call me God, crazy. This issue ends up shifting the story from survival towards the Silver Surfer trying to actually leave like a positive mark on the universe that at this point has barely begun, because he's way back in time when Null was kind of coming around in the beginning as well. But it's interesting. Again, we're getting these kind of philosophical ideas of the Silver Surfer actually kind of caring, and it's pretty wild to like decide to care after the innumerous planets and worlds and lives that he's seen be snuffed out. But hey, conscience is a bitch. It'll come get you when you least expect it, I guess. But it was great. This was a great issue too.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's dive in. This first, I mean, talking about color. Right,
yep.
Right from the beginning, the first page, we have these amazing shot of Galactus, consuming a planet, and the lava is exploding up from the core of the planet. Pieces of the tectonic plates are shattering. Everything is reds and oranges, and the Silver Surfer is kind of just floating upside down, holding his
fetal
knees
position. Yeah,
right.
And I think one of the great kind of quotes of this moment that acknowledges like the Silver Surfer's experience is I have seen such wondrously horrible things, so often that their memories have become hauntingly common. And he goes on to kind of talk about some of the specific memories, and then also seeing, he says, world upon world, civilization after civilization, I've seen such wonderfully horrible things. And I've witnessed the King in Black once, a long, long time ago. And then we get back into talking about Null.
Right. So we get this cool little flashback to a time where he ran into Null way, way back in the past, a different past from the one we're currently in.
Right, yeah.
But basically, if we remember from Venom, all of the symbiotes turned against Null and basically created a planet around him that was a cage.
Yes.
I forget the name of the planet. It's like Palantir, honestly. The name reminds me of that. It's not Palantir, but it's
But maybe just as terrible.
Right. And I don't think it's worth our time to go actually find the actual thing. But regardless, the Silver Surfer has encountered this planet, and it's depicted very like coral reef looking, or all these organic weird plants, and he gets gooped up by it. This whole big venom mouth comes and snaps him, and he gets to see in the core of the planet is Null, chained up and bound by all of these symbiote ropes and goo and whatever in the center of it. And he just basically locks eyes with it, realizes how messed up this place is, manages to blast out of there on a surfboard, and he's like out. And then we flash back to our current now the dawn of time, where he's locked in battle with this same guy. And we sort of realize he's like, oh shit, it's that guy that I saw bound in that symbiote goop planet.
Yeah, way, way long ago. And it's interesting because he also talks about like why, he realizes that, and the Silver Surfer is he realizes that this is not really like a planet, right? This is like this gigantic horde of symbiotes. But they also seem to fear the Silver Surfer, right? And he goes on to say, why do you fear me, little ones? I mean you no harm. And he says, they fear me because billions of years ago I made their hidden god bleed. And that's where Ben's talking about this moment where the Silver Surfer is fighting against Null here. And I mean, we get into some crazy, I don't know, it's wild to see all this art again, but it's just, these battles look unbelievable, and it's trying to, the beauty of piecing these things all together and understanding this art style as you go, I think really offers such a fun viewing, just like visual experience as you go on.
A lot of the poses are so dynamic and amazing. I think throughout the book, I'm going to definitely highlight some of them later on, but this, like, Silver Surfer's power set, seeing him fight is so cool. I feel like his surfboard is just this weird organic extension of himself that he can shape into basically anything he needs. So he'll go like flying in, the surfboard will become a weapon, he'll do some crazy acrobatic, combat maneuvers or whatever with this weapon that is the surfboard, and then it'll just transform back into a surfboard and he'll go flying off on it. Just really, really cool, creative fight scenes here. And yeah, we see a Null, terrifying, huge god figure, huge purple beams of energy blasting out, stabbing his sword into things like...
crazy. I love the way that actually there's a great panel of Null's arm like extended all the way out that kind of overlays on the top of a bunch of other panels, which looks really, really cool. And then we get, I think, one of the craziest just looking things from him, because actually during this fight, Silver Surfer is actually weakened, right? Which we talked about a little bit before. He had to go through this kind of whole experience that he was before. But Null, at least for a point in time, actually kind of beats the Silver Surfer, and all of these symbiotes, we basically see like the Venom Silver Surfer to a certain extent. I mean, this is kind of like he's making him into a knight. And there's this moment where the Silver Surfer even calls Null my lord, right?
Right.
And this, Null is so kind of like excited about this, and they're basically saying the light, needs to die. And then there's this crazy, and this is color also, right? So we're seeing all this black now because the Silver Surfer's been consumed. And then we see this voice coming out of nowhere. That's also the voice, the text bubble for the voice is kind of psychedelic in its own right, but it's this blast of energy that basically tears all of the symbiotes off the Silver Surfer. Which is, I mean, just crazy.
Very cool. And let's talk a little bit about what Silver Surfer looks like. This is basically like Venom Silver Surfer, right? It's like Silver Surfer covered in a symbiote. And it's very H.R. Geiger inspired, which we should talk about for a second. He's the artist he's like a Swiss artist and sculptor who came up with all the imagery for Alien, the original Alien movie. And this whole, the way that the Silver Surfer looks is very referential to that, in my opinion. If you look at art from Alien here, Antonio, here,
I'm pulling some of this stuff up too. I think that you're definitely right. There's definitely some vibe that's coming from that for sure.
And very sinister. It's sort of supposed to make us think like how terrifying he would be as a knight, like a herald of Null instead of a herald of Galactus.
So right. Yeah.
And we see it just for a moment, enough for us to kind of try to get our heads wrapped around it. And then obviously this entity saves him, does this big blasts all the symbiote off of him so that he has a moment to escape. But and we don't realize who is saving him. We find out later that it is Ego, the planet, is the one reaching out to him and saves him in this moment. But yeah, even just for like a couple pages, getting to see what Silver Surfer would look like in that state is pretty scary.
Fun. I love seeing those like the kind of like nega versions of people and things like that. But so the Silver Surfer ends up being able to break out of this thanks to Ego's gigantic like fiery light beam that comes there. And like you said, he doesn't know that this is Ego yet, but he says, Ego says, "Run, follow my voice," and the Silver Surfer breaks away. And there's this crazy, crazy panel. I'm honestly surprised that this is not like a full splash panel in its own right, but you see the Silver Surfer shooting away from this planet in this kind of beam of light, but you see the entire planet, basically this gigantic symbiote thing with all these arms reaching out to try and grab the Silver Surfer as he disappears off. And it's like, yeah, I'm honestly surprised that this one's not like a full splash panel, but it's crazy looking, crazy, very alien.
Yeah, it's amazing. Then we see, let's see, narratively, Null summons this insane dragon, symbiote dragon that we've seen going crazy in Venom. It's one of his things. His like Venom symbol on his chest is this scary red dragon. So he's always summoning and creating these symbiote dragons, and we basically get to see this outer space chase with Null pursuing the Silver Surfer at crazy speeds through the cosmos on the back of this dragon. And then we see, this is another one of the crazy panels for me, in my opinion.
I totally agree.
Where the way the Silver Surfer deals with this is he basically turns around, summons way more of that power cosmic,
yes,
and just basically blasts through the center of the dragon, like through its mouth and out the back, and it just explodes in fire and burns away, and that gives him the time to finally escape Null. And he keeps chasing, following the sound of like this voice that's basically trying to help him get out of this situation. And we see now his entire arm, his hand all the way up to his shoulder, is this black iridescent sort of oil slick looking substance. So we can see as he's
his power, it's eating away at him in one way or another.
Right. There's like a physical and personal cost to him escaping Null, basically.
Yeah, this is such a random thing that I just noticed, but there's I love like the kind of cartoonishness of this panel of Null like kind of screaming or yelling after the dragon is destroyed. It's like, it's so like cartoony with the way that the hand, like the kind of claws and the teeth look in the mouth and whatever else. It's like, it almost is like a departure from what Null would normally look like to accentuate what this moment is kind of displaying.
Right. Let's see if there's some good text or anything that we should highlight here. It says, the king in black may yet devour my light, but he will choke on it. And that's when he blasts through the dragon, right? He says, I survive, but I'm afraid of what I will be when I am done. The darkness infecting me, changing me. Am I to be death again? Is this how I fall? How I become? And, Ego interrupts this monologue in his own mind, and he's like, no, Nor, not this day. I see in your mind when you fought this god, this Null on this planet. A voice in your mind told you that you would deserve death. This would be a fitting end, it said, for a destroyer of worlds to be devoured by one. Today, Norn, this changes, because today a planet will be your salvation. And we get, my name is Ego. Shall we kill a god?
Banger.
And the final panel is one of the most
like freaky, like
objectively psychedelic looking things we've seen, and begins this whole issue. Our next issue takes place mostly on and within Ego, the living planet. And this, try to describe what we're looking at here.
Yeah,
Antonio.
I don't even know. I was like kind of zooming in on this as looking. I mean, it's just so crazy. I mean, it's wild line work. I mean, that's the interesting thing actually about looking at the planet itself. It's like, so much of this is almost like the planet itself is almost like sketch scribbled to give it this like darkness and kind of weird surface to it. It's also got eyes, right? This is like a planet that actually has basically a face to it. It's got eyes, nose, and a mouth. But then surrounding this are these crazy, crazy colors that, as Ben is talking about, this kind of like organic type of feeling there. But it is truly, as you said, one of the most psychedelic pages that we see in here early on. And I think Ego itself, the planet in this, actually, I think is very visually distinctive from almost every other one of the panels that we see in this whole story. So I'm interested as to why exactly they made that choice, but it does make a huge impression when you take a look at it. And there was actually one kind of bit of dialogue that I wanted to point out from this here that goes back to this philosophical issue that the Silver Surfer's dealing with, where Ego is talking to him and says, calls him Norn, right? Which is interesting. So he's like, how do you even know my name? And then the ego goes on to say, yes, Norn Rad from Zenla, the Silver Surfer, herald of a being called Galactus, destroyer of worlds. But you are repentant, are you not? You are death. It weighs on you, the darkness. I know them because you know them. I can see inside your mind. This is talking about basically how does he know these things. But I think that ego noticing and acknowledging that the Silver Surfer is repentant, right? That's really what kind of leads us into the rest of this whole story, and them maybe even possibly eventually working together to do some stuff. So pretty crazy.
Yeah. Remarkable. Thanks for reading that. That was a good find. Let's see, that kind of wraps up
issue number 2.
And we're jumping into 3. The covers for
Don't even get me started, brother. Don't even get me started.
Truly unbelievable. The cover for issue 2 that we just finished had another one of those amazing multimedia panels where it has what looks like real imagery of planets, or if it is, a generated, or it's done so in a photorealistic way.
Yes,
it looks like something from the real world. And then we have our amazing reflective organic Silver Surfer in the fetal position, floating upside down over top of these planets, and it's just incredible visual stuff. And the cover for issue 3, as we get into this sort of ego the living planet chapter, is, as we said, we're really dialing up the psychedelic imagery here. We see the Silver Surfer standing in front of all of this crazy, goopy, organic matter.
I couldn't even tell you where we are.
Right. And I think one of the things that I'll just get out ahead before we even read our summary for issue 3, that it looks like visually they're being super inspired by cell structure. Like all this stuff brings back AP Bio for me. Like all of these little goopy things with legs, or like the different proteins that are moving things around inside, in the I don't even remember. These things look like bacteriophages or whatever.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
It's the powerhouse of the cell. If I know one thing, it's that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Indeed.
But I mean, that makes sense also for them thinking how they're going to depict this living planet, and it's sort of like the scale, like our bodies are made up of all these weird molecular things. And then if it's like a body scaled up to the size of a planet, it kind of feels like a Magic School Bus in a way.
It does. That's a great one. Shout out. We're drawing parallels between Silver Surfer and Magic School Bus today, and mitochondria.
It really does feel that way. Like, well, we're gonna go inside the core of this living planet, and it's all just goopy molecular structures.
Goopy molecular stuff. Yeah, crazy. So I'll dive into this summary for issue number 3. So the Silver Surfer finds himself, pulled towards this strange world, right, which we end up finding is ego, and he. Also ends up reconnecting with these memories of his past and his life as Norn Rad. As his body continues to turn black and kind of be corrupted in this way, he struggles to hold onto his identity and purpose. Null's corruption grows stronger, forcing the Surfer to confront how much of himself he's willing to lose to do the things that he needs to do. And this issue focuses heavily on identity and what remains when hope begins fading away. Because the interesting thing about this too is that the Silver Surfer, as he's being consumed, doesn't really see like the positive end to this. It's like, and kind of one of the things that was addressed before is that the Silver Surfer is almost ready to die in a way where, ego had acknowledged this inner monologue in the last issue that the Silver Surfer had, basically saying, a fitting end, right, to a destroyer of worlds. So we're going to see some more of that philosophical discussion in this one, but diving into this first here, we get a view of who the Silver Surfer was before, and also the woman that was his partner on the world that he was on before he became the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, this vision is crazy. It's hard to tell what's real, what's a memory, what is a vision. But it's basically the two of them like waking up and talking about dreaming of them having a kid someday, making a light together.
Actually, one thing, I'm sorry to interrupt you on this, but one of the things that I love is the way that actually on this first page, we see these panels that kind of jump back and forth between like the cosmos and then this woman. I gotta find her. Oh, Shalabal. That's her name. Silver Surfer goes on to call her kind of his one constant. But this crazy like back and forth between the cosmos and then her, and then the Silver Surfer opening his eyes is like, we basically end up seeing that like the cosmos is kind of like the black of like his eyelids, which is so crazy, just super interesting to look at, and to, it'd be fun to better understand like what it is, like where does that come from, bro? Where do you think of that? What is that? Just great, again, great art by these guys, amazing.
So in this vision, he's saying they're basically locking eyes and dreaming about having a kid together someday, which again is interesting. Like him talking about creating a star, creating life. He's saying, let's make a light,
yes,
which is a part of this whole thing, right? Like the light, it's sort of light versus darkness, Silver Surfer versus Null, throughout, that sort of dichotomy is what we're examining throughout this whole story. And so he says, there in that moment, Shala looking at me with gentle eyes that could hush a storm. That was the last time I knew peace. The last time I touched my love with a hand that belonged to me. The last time I felt small, powerless, for that was the day he arrived. The day that death came to Zen Law. And what's really striking, I think, about this version of the past, this vision that they're seeing, it's not Galactus that arrives and destroys the planet.
Same thing.
It's Silver Surfer Black. It's him fully coated in that black, oily, but it's not even coated. It's not like he's coated with a symbiote. It's that instead of being silver, he is black. It's distinct from him turning into Venom, is what I'm trying to say here. But yeah, then we have this crazy sequence showing like kaiju-sized, planet-sized black Silver Surfer pulling up and destroying the planet. We see him reach out all these tendrils, enveloping the world. We see sort of this god mode, 6-armed Silver Surfer rising up, and the surfboard itself is what plunges down into the planet and ultimately makes it explode. So it's sort of, this vision is crazy. It's very sort of him remembering the last moment of peace before he got sent on this journey to become ultimately a devourer of worlds himself.
To be the thing that almost like his experience that has like traumatized him the most is what he ended up becoming. And there's this great dialogue that ends up happening here. And I guess it's not so much dialogue, but his inner monologue. But he says, the destroyer never spoke. He would not be quelled or reasoned with or fought. There were no words that would sway him any more than a song could stop a bullet. What a great little song could stop a bullet. That's just so fun, Donnie. And so we watched and we wept and we screamed at our extinction. Crazy monumental background panels to this destruction of this planet. And you can actually see the Silver Surfer, obviously before he transformed here, but as what's his name, Norrin?
Yeah, Norrin.
Yeah, but he says, "Please spare this planet. I will join you at your," and then it just boom, everything explodes. Crazy, and to see, what they say, right? You either die a hero, you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. But maybe you get to be here again. I don't know. Who knows? We'll see.
Right. But yeah, so we snap from that vision and dream of the past back to our current part in the story where Silver Surfer is talking to Ego the planet. The art and color is really, as we already talked, I already tried to monologue about how everything looks organic and like cell structures, but the color is all green and purple. I feel like is really green, purple, orange, these weird contrasting colors that is sort of the color palette that we're living in for this whole issue here. Basically, in summary, we have all this conversation between Ego and the Silver Surfer, and they realize that there's something at the core of Ego the planet that is maybe killing him,
there's something that's happening that like Ego's like, oh, I'm a young planet, I'm growing is all, nothing, don't worry about it. But then it keeps on going on. It's like, I don't know if it's like earthquakes are happening or something like that, but there's obviously a disturbance coming from the inside of this planet Ego. Yeah,
and Silver Surfer's like, Ego, you must tell me what's wrong. And he says, it's something inside me, something crashed into me, a meteorite of some kind. It's embedded deep in my core and it's growing, it's killing me. And Silver Surfer basically is like, all right, bro, I'm going to go to the core of you and I'm going to figure out what's going on. I'm going to save you.
And his surfboard turns into a drill.
Right, and it's just this is one of the most insane, almost anime sequences.
Yeah,
I
you
feel like.
you talked about these panels before we got on the pod, so you take this one, brother.
I mean, I'll try my best to describe it, but he basically
Look on the Instagram for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have some of these up there. But the surfboard becomes this insane drill. We also the background as we see him accelerate. It's trying to show basically how fast he's moving.
Like in the Matrix.
Yeah, the world becomes like a neon green like computer grid basically. And he goes flying through Ego the Planet. And this page is one of the craziest. Like, you can see all of the different layers of Ego the Planet as Silver Surfer is drilling through them. And then we also have, on top of that huge background picture, three different frames of Silver Surfer sort of at a three-dimensional angle for us to see him flying through the panels, denoting time passing through the panels as they do in comics, and also showing us one's purple, one's sort of this earthy yellow, one is red, basically seeing him flying into the center of this planet. And let's see, the infected rocks of this planet splinter beneath me, cutting through the yielding clay and loam like a hawk through the sky. A great ocean of bruised stone turned to dust, deposits of galactic diamonds the size of leviathans. It's just cool, cool descriptions of the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, and actually one thing that he mentions here, which is interesting, is that he describes that those diamonds scraping at his wounded flesh, right? This kind of big thing, again, that shows that the Silver Surfer is experiencing some kind of degradation here, is that he's feeling any of this. And I think he actually goes on to talk some more about that later on. But he says, my board and I would barely shudder as we scorched them in our wake, in another time when everything was working correctly. But with my shell weakened and my core degrading by the moment, I feel all of it, every scrape at my flesh, every lick of flame, even with my board slicing through the violent cells as fast as they can self-replicate. There's that cell thing, as we were talking about. The work, the battle, it's exhausting, but not impossible. No, never that. That's also such a great little, it's hard, but it's not impossible.
Right. And one of the things that Ego discussed, where it's dangerous for Silver Surfer to go into the core of the planet, is because sort of like his immune system, anything that's in there, it's going to try to fight him out, basically. So the Silver Surfer's needing to fight against Ego's own organic defense mechanisms, basically.
Yes, absolutely. Antibodies.
This is one of my favorite, I think, action sequences. Also, just the way that Silver Surfer moves. It's actually, I think it's almost balletic. I don't know if that's the right word.
It's
but
very interesting. Yeah,
he kind of is like leaping so gracefully. It almost seems like he's dancing. But this sequence, he says, "Board, a blade, please." And we see his board becomes this incredible spear that he's like leaping in this, I don't even know, like a full, like he's in a split.
I didn't even notice that one. Yeah, it's like, I don't know what they call it, but yeah, it's a leaping full split. Absolutely.
Right. It spins the spear around. We see it flying like a whirlwind of blade all around him as he's like
I didn't even realize that was what that was, bro. That's so sick.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's and again, this page has no panels. The story, the time is passing just in these organic sweeps as the Silver Surfer is fighting. We see the blade like flying, like slicing through all of these organic tendrils that are reaching for him. And then on the next page, we see him grab the spear, swing around it kind of like a pole, and then as he's swinging, it turns back into a surfboard. He lands back on it and is like, I don't know. It's so cool. It's very, very cool.
I don't know, bro. This is, again, one of those ones where you just got to go pick that shit up, or at the very least, go on the Instagram page, give that shit a like, swipe through those things that Ben's going to put in there, and you're going to want to pick this shit up. That's all I'm saying.
But long story short, he successfully fights off these defenses the Ego has in the center of the planet, and he discovers the problem at the core. And what does he find, Antonio?
Dude, he finds Galactus. He finds basically like the egg of Galactus. He says, and with a feeling that is both dread and inevitability crashing into each other, I sense what it is. And Silver Surfer out loud, all of this is monologue. And then he says one thing out loud. He says, "No, it cannot be." And then we get the monologue, the internal monologue again. It is the destroyer, the world killer yet to be born. Here in the burning infant core of Ego, the living planet, lies Life Bringer One, the cosmic incubator of Galactus.
And
Whoa.
this item they see, it sort of reminds me of like that cube from Transformers.
I
or
was almost
something.
thinking of like what do they call it, like the Tesseract or whatever. I almost thought it was going to be that when I looked at this, but
Yep, that's another good analogy. It does look like that.
It's kind of got Galactus's hat on a little bit, so I
Right.
was like, I think I get it.
But it's very different from everything we like. It's obviously not part of Ego. All of Ego is this, as we keep saying,
Sharp edges,
right. Ego is goopy organic stuff, and then here we see it's got the pink, it's got the purple, it's got the silver, it's got sharp.
It's a cube,
edges, right? Which obviously is not meant to be inside Ego. And this is a big dun dun dun, dramatic sort of cliffhanger at the end of our story. Galactus, the devourer of worlds, is inside our boy Ego,
and it's also just wild to think about like what time we're in, because Galactus just feels like one of those like forever characters, right? And so to be at any point when Galactus is like somehow not a thing, or like going to be growing into something or whatever else, and not his full form, is just so crazy.
It's also this crazy reminder of this time paradox that we're in, which again it's very cosmic, it's very Einstein, space time, relativity, all that type of stuff, right?
Yeah,
it's like
absolutely.
The Silver Surfer was created. I mean, he was a guy. Galactus pulled up to his planet, made him his herald. Right now, how is Silver Surfer even existing pre-Galactus?
Right.
Now he's fine. It all doesn't quite make sense, but it doesn't have to. It's
right.
not.
All
it's
these
not
damn
about
time
that.
things, brother. They'll get you. Also, this is a random thought, but this is the end of this issue, and they always have these crazy variants at the end. Is that a Carnage Silver Surfer? That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. So fire. That's another this is a random interjection here. I think we talked about this before, but again, one of the most fun things that I think about comics in general, right, is getting to see all of these different obviously story interpretations, but also artistic interpretations of what these characters can look like. We actually have one here that's actually very like realistic looking, which is it's funny we talked about the word off-putting. I feel like that's probably one of the more off-putting ones that exist there, but super, super cool and unique in its own right. But yeah, so that wraps up issue number 3. And we'll, why not? We'll dive back to issue number 4, and I'll read our little summary. So the Surfer's condition is worsening as he pushes towards a final confrontation with Null. He realizes defeating darkness will require sacrifice rather than brute force. This issue leans heavily into cosmic imagery and philosophical themes, not unlike the others, as the Surfer refuses to abandon his ideals despite mounting losses. Great quote, by the way, that we're going to get into there, bro. And then by the end of this issue, he commits fully to protecting light, even if it costs him everything. Wow, that's a crazy last sentence in our little summary there. But this one again is wild. Another crazy page, or I guess like art on the cover of this issue, where it's like, Silver Surfer surfing through all this stuff. We were seeing like kind of like the face of Galactus in this orange burning fire behind him.
It's kind of like a mushroom cloud.
It is kind of like a mushroom cloud. That's actually very, very true. But again, just crazy. But getting into it, Silver Surfer basically is looking at this egg of Galactus, and it's kind of like, I have a chance. He says, perhaps fate has given me one more chance to end it all, right? And so what he actually is kind of thinking of doing is basically, at a simple kind of thing, he's kind of thinking about like kicking Galactus's egg into the sun, basically.
Right.
Which is
again one of these time paradox things where if he destroys Galactus, how is he ever going to become the Silver Surfer in the first place? It's like destroying his own origin. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'll try to read some of the Donny Cates' writing here on this first page. So we see basically Silver Surfer is trying to get this Galactus egg outside of Ego, like push it back out through the planet. And he says, I can feel it growing. The darkness looms as I carry my maker on my back. Long ago, before he was the devourer, Galactus was an explorer named Galan. It's funny trying to keep track of all these names too. They're all goofy.
I was thinking
as
of that
hell.
same thing. But I love that like everybody has like 2 names. Everybody's like, I'm this, but what I was.
And you can tell they're like, it's like people in the 60s being like, trying to come up with, I don't know, it's Galan, Norn, Rad, Shal, Balal.
Yeah, right. And I love when they throw those like hyphens, and that's like, we talk about League or whatever else. They always have like all the characters from the Void are all like, first thing,
Kaisa,
hyphen,
Rek'Sai.
exactly, Cho'Gath, all these things. Yeah. Anyway.
A lot of Cho'Gath mentions on the pod too.
No,
We're talking
recently.
about Cho'Gath in the Spawn episode.
The man himself.
But regardless, let me finish this page, right? So, when his universe died, or perhaps was killed, he was remade within this incubator and shunted into our universe when it exploded into being. He is in there now, and as I deliver him from this fragile living planet, my shadow grows along with him, and I know my time burning in the infinite night is soon coming to an end. But perhaps here at the dawn of time, facing oblivion on the back of a dragon, perhaps fate has given me one more chance to end it all.
Banger. Crazy.
It's good writing.
It is good writing. Donny Cates, come on the pod. We'll see you soon. But this is wild. And so Silver Surfer's trying to take this egg. One of the conversations that he ends up having with Ego is that they both know that Null is coming, right? Null is approaching, which is a crazy experience. And the other thing that actually ends up happening here is that we get the reaffirmation that Ego is actually going to help the Silver Surfer fight against Null, which is pretty crazy to have that living planet. But we get this crazy page where the Silver Surfer is, again, right about to, he says, one slight push, and he could literally push this egg basically into Helios Ra, the white dwarf star of the Apollo system. And he says, one slight push and everything goes away, countless lives spared from his hunger, hundreds of planets shining their light into the darkness, and then he ends up getting interrupted by something. He's thinking of his partner back in the day, but we see this shadow kind of looming behind him. Actually, I didn't even notice, bro. We see the face of this creature like reflected in his silver like head, which is so funny. But this guy shows up, Uatu.
Uatu the Watcher.
The Watcher, yeah, one of these observers, which is wild. I do not. Do you know much about the?
Yeah, I know a little bit. So one of the things in our current Marvel world, right? This guy actually is in I forget what they call it, but like What If? He's the narrator of Marvel What If, like in official MCU. If it's on Disney Plus or whatever, which I don't have anymore. But these guys basically are some like ancient pantheon of cosmic gods, and their whole deal is they just observe. Like they're not supposed to interfere at all. But that's one of the things. Obviously, shit gets so crazy that eventually sometimes,
like, damn, all right, we gotta do a little something.
And I think it is probably
this is kind of one of those moments,
right? It's moments like this, like we were talking about, like stuff in space-time continuum, where he's like, bruh, if the Silver Surfer pushes the guy that's the devourer of worlds that created the Silver Surfer into a star in the ancient billions of years ago, previous era,
it's gonna get a little weird.
Like what's gonna? So these guys basically pop up in the very very important times, and they're like, hey, I'm not supposed to interfere, but please don't do that.
I just want to let you know something. But the interesting thing right here that they say is that he says the Watchers have decreed that Galactus shall live. There must always be a balance, the light, the dark. Your presence here is the interference, not mine. Yeah, crazy.
Which is the core concept. I think it's like Galactus is like the concept of entropy, right? It's like this thing where the things sort of naturally are always falling apart and decomposing, right? And if everything exists indefinitely, there's not like, it's sort of like there can't be life without death. It's like one of these weird like two sides of the same coin thing, where obviously we would love to say, oh cool, like what if nobody ever died? What if everything lasted forever? What if nothing changed, right? And it's like, well, actually everything would fall apart if that were true,
right.
If that worked, everything can't just exist indefinitely. So it sort of is getting into Galactus being, and again, the Silver Surfer reckoning with death and being the herald of the end for all of these worlds and everything, right? It's like this weird cosmic scale that he's at the scale in, trying to keep balance.
Yeah, this is almost like a beyond, like a cosmic scale. Whatever is like beyond that, because it's like if these guys are truly the Watchers of like everything, like there's what is beyond cosmic? I don't even know, but that's these guys. And what's interesting, we also get kind of like a little tidbit of all these different possibilities. I don't know if these some of these have played out, but this Watcher says there are many lives, nor in every action makes branches of realities, possible universes. In one you die alone on Zen Law, and one you grow old with your wife and your children. In one you live until the end of time and die at the hands of Thanos while wielding Mjolnir, which is crazy.
That's we'll read that one. I've read that one.
Yeah, and the one you propose,
that's a comic, bro.
That's crazy. And the one you propose, you kill the infant Galactus in his incubator. But hear me, your actions, the things you have done will not be unmade. You will still remain, your hands no less bloody. The only thing that will change is that you will have to live with what you have done this day. Which again, philosophical thing that Silver Surfer is really grappling with.
Maybe this is actually a thought I just had. Maybe this is relating to the vision or dream he was having in the previous issue, where if he destroys Galactus now, he becomes Galactus. Like there needs to, like, that's why that he would, like, he becomes Silver Surfer Black or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's the one, instead of being the Herald, he himself ends up being the one that has to pull up and destroy the planets himself. That's
interesting. That's crazy. That I could see that for sure. Damn.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's maybe one.
We're writing that comic.
Hey. But this panel right here, this is a crazy one, right?
Yeah,
we see him,
one.
Silver Surfer is sort of he's reaching out into the power cosmic, and he's sort of like pulling his own skin apart, and you see his eyes are like bloody sockets as he's looking into it.
Basically, yeah.
He says, let's read some of it. He says, if I could just reach his mind, the powers, perhaps I could.
And he's trying to reach Galan, right? Which is the previous version of Galactus. That's who he's kind of reaching out to.
And it says, I feel him. I touch his mind and I see it. His last hours in his universe, the black winter that fell on his reality, trillions of souls screaming and dying and blinking out of existence. It is too much even for me. I cannot stand it. And then rising from an ocean of freezing death, he is there.
Ooh.
This panel, all red panel of Silver Surfer like surfing out of this ocean of lava and blood, and just mega huge Galactus is standing above him. It's one of my favorite ones. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous. That'll be on the Instagram. Go check it out too and pick this up. But crazy.
And then the following panel has this sort of symbolic little back and forth with Silver Surfer and Galactus in this vision, right? And it's like Silver Surfer is turning into a snake, which then gets chased by this red eagle, which then turns into a octopus, and then Silver Surfer turns into a dolphin,
yeah.
And then then he becomes a wolf who's chasing the deer. You know, we're just in this crazy dream state before eventually they get to confront each other, and Silver Surfer gets to have a conversation with Galan, the guy who eventually becomes Galactus. And that's really the heart of this issue, I think, is their conversation.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And, you know, the Silver Surfer originally says to Galan when he asks, you know, why do you attack me, traveler? Who are you? And he says, I mean to kill you for the things you will do and the thing you will become, so that I may heal myself to stop another horror. And he, you know, Galan asks, what am I to become? And Silver Surfer says, death, right? And they go on. And I think this is actually a very interesting thing that Galan brings up. But Silver Surfer says, you become a destroyer of worlds. You feast upon them in the name of some unseen scale you claim to balance. And Galan says, I see. If I may, is that not also your excuse, right? And Silver Surfer is like, I'm sorry. And Galan says, you hope to snuff my life out in order to prevent some sort of other, what did you call it, horror? You would kill light to beat the dark. Are you not also balancing the fates with death? I have felt it, traveler, this new power of mine. I can feel the universe pulling me towards a purpose of its own design. I know too many things. Soon I will outgrow this form, and I grow hungry. So do what you must, but as one who has gazed into it and yet lived, I know but one thing about the nature of universal balance. You cannot defeat the dark with darkness, which I think is such a interesting. And this is another moment where the Silver Surfer is actually crying, right? Which I think is, again, showing how truly emotional this is for this insanely cosmic being, which it's interesting. I wonder what the tipping point was really for him to start feeling this way, but very interesting. And so this is where Silver Surfer also makes a choice to not push Galactus into this sun, basically this egg into the sun. He says, I am not my maker, I am not death. And he basically just whips Galactus towards some, he whips him into the orbit of the planet Archaeopia, the first planet to die in Galactus's wake. I am once again damned and dying, but not without hope. For my time inside the mind of the devourer, I have learned what I must do. So interesting. He basically kind of accepts that he has to just let things go in motion, at the very least for this. But I love that he just grabs and just whips this thing like all the way at whatever planet he's sending it to.
And again, this exertion comes at a cost. We see more of his silver skin sort of chipping and falling away. And now the black, the Silver Surfer black part of him is all the way, like his whole shoulder and half of his face is sort of overcome with it.
Two-Face, yeah.
Yep. And then he goes flying back to Ego, and he says, Ego's like, Norrin, you've returned. He says, I don't have time to explain. The darkness nips at my throat as we speak. I require your help. Read my mind, Ego. I will show you. And basically they're coming up with a plan saying this is the only way. And we get these visions again of Norrin, of the Silver Surfer, looking into these existences. So he says, let's see, Ego says, then reach out with me together, your mind's eye to mine, and bear witness, Surfer. Open your eyes and gaze into the infinite. He says, I can see it across the stars, life, all of it connected. I can feel them all. They sense the growing black as I do, and they are all so afraid. Tell them, Ego, tell them what I need from them. Tell them to seed their life into the abyss, choke it with their light. Now focus and channel it, all of it, into me. I have what I need to end this. I will no longer curse the darkness.
And Ego says, then what will you do? And the Silver Surfer says, burn. And I'm going to crazy that page that has burn on it is absolutely wild. One thing I want to touch on just real quick. Actually, fuck it. I'm going to say that.
No. Touch on. Do whatever.
Okay. So the thing that I actually love about the way that they portray Ego in this too is that, so Ego obviously has a face, right? We've talked about this kind of nose and mouth and eyes. When the Silver Surfer is flying back to Ego, the eyes, like the actual like eyeballs are like planets, right? Like the eyeball and like the people, whatever else, are like moons, right? That are floating around. And so I love that we get these moments where we see Ego and like the eyes are not like in the eye sockets because they're these floating moons or satellites that are just around the planet. And I just think that shit is so cool. But anyway, back to this page where he says burn. At the end of this issue, we get this crazy image of the Silver Surfer with this one side of him is this part that's being consumed by this darkness. The other side, he has his fist with light, and we see these crazy colors. But what's amazing here too is that they use the artists here use the negative space to kind of paint this the dragon of Null over the top of the Silver Surfer. And I don't know. Again, it's like whether or not it's supposed to be kind of like a shadow approaching or just the acknowledgement of like what it is that he has to fight against, right? But really just cool use of the negative space and the color and everything that's going on here, but just really just amazing. So that's the end of our issue number 4 right there, and jumping into issue number 5, again, another crazy cover to this, but we basically see the full Silver Surfer Black with the board, his entire body covered, and leads us to the question, right? What's about to happen in this last issue? So I'll do our summary here. In this one, the Silver Surfer makes his final stand against Null and unleashes the full power he still possesses and the one that he's gained, obviously, from these planets and Ego. The confrontation reshapes Silver Surfer physically and spiritually while connecting him back into Marvel's larger cosmic history. In victory, spoiler, not really, but Surfer gains a deeper understanding of who he is and what he represents, and the story ends up closing kind of as a meditation on sacrifice, identity, and hope, surviving even in this overwhelming darkness of Null and things like that. I'm gonna decree that I'm gonna read one of these quotes that ends up coming on here, but I love so much of the resolution of this story. And oh man, if we're talking about art, the cover, this is crazy. First page in, and we're already like psychedelic as hell. We're actually getting some kind of sharper edges here, which is also kind of an interesting change, but he talks about becoming undone. Yeah, and
a whole new type of visual influence too. I mean, these few pages here are just straight like Picasso, right?
It does
like
feel
literal
very Picasso. You're so right.
Cubism, surrealism, sort of Dali stuff going on. I love how each of these issues are obviously they all have a very similar cohesive aesthetic, but what's his name? Trad Moore, right? Is it?
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah,
but Trad Moore is really exploring different, almost like historical eras of art too, like incorporating all of these different influences
very
into
true.
what he's got going on, and so it's, it's just crazy. This is straight up some surrealism, cubism.
Yeah, everything like that. It's super. I mean, what's also kind of fun here, I actually didn't realize exactly what this was doing here originally, but the internal monologue, dialogue bubbles that we get here that are these, the background is blue. Whenever the Silver Surfer is actually kind of having a memory, and we jump between these kind of panels that are kind of like now and then him remembering something, those text boxes end up kind of like fading out a little bit, which I think is kind of interesting. And I didn't even realize the first time that I was reading this, but he's having all these memories of these experiences with Noel, understanding what is actually happening now. We actually see this kind of crazy one of him and Spider-Man. I don't know where that one's from, but we obviously see also his memory of wanting to have a child with his partner there as well. But yeah, I mean, you're so right about the cubism and the different things like that. It is like he talks about kind of like unraveling, but this is psychedelic to the max. We're all on acid reading through this damn thing. I can only imagine what an experience that would be. But he goes through this, ends up saying, horror and beauty interlace and explode in my mind's eyes as I am reborn in the dark. I was a man, Norrin Rad, but then something else, a destroyer. And he says, no, I remember. And this is actually a crazy panel too when he says that. But he says, no, I remember. I am not my maker. I am not death, not today. And this is the moment when Noel arrives again on his dragon that is also now armored out. Yeah. Noel's got some armor on.
This one's even leveled up. Yeah,
an armor hat. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, dragon's got armor. Noel has armor. The dragon's even bigger. It's insane. It's very final confrontation's about to be wild,
bonkers. Yeah, and so we see the Silver Surfer with his the power that he has in that right hand now. Right, this left side's being consumed by the darkness, and he puts his right hand kind of over. I guess probably his heart, but he says, not today, like I had mentioned. And what ends up happening here is the Silver Surfer shoots off past and kind of just goes around
right.
The
surfboard. The surfboard goes under, he goes over the dragon. It's pretty
yeah. So they're blasting off and talks about, Noel, the god of the dark, has arrived on the infant ego, and I am dying. I am weak, my cosmic shell broken and spilling into the black. There's no more running. There's no more avoiding what must be done. Still as ever, there is hope. I never fight alone. And then ego, I don't even know what the hell he doing, but he just
fire blast. I don't know.
He just like
it's like a planet just blasting. Like I don't even
cosmic energy at Noel and the dragon, and gives once again gives Silver Surfer a chance to kind of escape, or at least kind of get his bearings and be where he wants to be, rather than being attacked in that moment.
How insane is this fucking page?
I know, crazy page, guys. Pick up the damn book. I promise you.
It has. Let's see. There's so much going on. It's sort of even hard to explain. But the backdrop is a huge outer space shot showing the dragon flying around, chasing the Silver Surfer. On the left side, we've got these sort of abstract panels showing a light sort of growing, and then on the right side, we see Silver Surfer, these small panels showing Silver Surfer being consumed by the black. On the left side of this splash page, we have Noel's face looking out at his helmet. The right side has Silver Surfer's, Silver Surfer black
I didn't even
face.
see his fucking face the first time I looked at this.
Right.
I saw Noel's, but I didn't even see Silver Surfer's. That's crazy.
There's so much going on. That's one of the cool things where it's like, this is sort of maximalism, right? Sometimes it's really nice when we're reading to have the pages be really readable and really simple. This is almost like the opposite approach where, not that this is like Where's Waldo in any way, but you're like, you can't just quickly look at this and turn the page, right? You can really spend as much time as you want looking piece by piece, zooming in, looking at each panel. There's just so much storytelling and art and information. There's almost too much to look at.
This is like a multi-reader. This is like it's like one of those things that I think is really great. It's like first time you kind of go through it like for the story, and then the second time you go through and you get to kind of look at the art and really experience. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing right now, which is what makes this so much fun. Like we read it the first time, and now we're kind of going through it again. But really, just like amazing.
And it all culminates down on the underneath that whole giant splash page. We have more traditional panels, and so basically, Null is saying, "You will join me, little light. I will have you." And he says, "Null, I assure you are mistaken." And basically this culminates in Silver Surfer landing on the back of the dragon and summoning his board into this giant greatsword. everything about him, and now he's fully consumed by the black except for the right side of his face and his right arm. And it just this page ends with the two of them facing off, swords in hand, ready to throw down.
Yeah, fighting against the all black, the Necro Blade.
Which again, Null, not Null's blade, but we've
seen it twice now.
Yep,
which is pretty crazy.
The sword was wielded by Gore the God Butcher.
Yes.
So again, there's so many of these little elements between all these stories. We've got overlap between Venom, Thor, Silver Surfer. It's all coming together.
It is absolutely all coming together. And this is such a crazy fight. Again, all these things are like kind of like stretching and bending, and we're getting all these crazy colors. And what ends up happening kind of wildly is that Silver Surfer talks about, in my fury, I forget myself. I forget that my opponent is many, that his horde is everywhere. And it feels like there's this moment where, not even feels like, but there's this moment where where Null basically stabs the Silver Surfer through into the dragon, and it's kind of very similar to the inside of his planet, where the Silver Surfer basically gets put into that same kind of cage type of situation as Null was. Yeah, do you want to read that whole thing? Give it to me. All right, I'll read it. So it says, a sword of darkness, all black, the Necroblade, wielded by its creator, the lord of the great unending abyss, and a sword of light, a silver blade of cosmic power, made of its creator's broken living flesh. Oh, you're so right, bro. Okay, anyway, the sound they make as they clash would deafen a god. I wrote this shit down too. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, but that the sound they make as they clash would deafen a god is such a crazy acknowledgement of the scale, right, of the fight that they're having, and the scale of the weapons too.
Yeah, and we're having a psychedelic sword duel on the back of a dragon. As they're
come
flying
on,
through
brother.
outer space. Like, we're just really on X Games mode, as they say. Some may say.
Yeah, some may say. But yeah, so what ends up happening here is that Null kind of thinks that he has the Silver Surfer. He says, stop struggling, stop fighting this. It's over. It ends now. Your light is mine. And again, Null is getting this. It's like, actually, I'm noticing this now. Null's, as he kind of is getting more aggressive, it's like almost like anything that looks like human of him starts like peeling away, and you see these like insanely, it's like his gums start showing.
Yeah,
I don't
it becomes
know what
like
that is.
more monstrous, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the god of the symbiotes. Like, he's always morphing and
right, that's a good point.
goopy and
Yeah,
terrifying.
He's crazy. But so we hear this internal monologue from the Silver Surfer, a voice I had thought was gone. If we turn from battle, it says, because there's little hope of victory, where then would valor be? And so this, we'll talk about this again. I'm getting a little goosebumps here, but that is like an original, like, I think Stan Lee quote from the original Silver Surfer, and that's such a. I remember reading this and like. I can't remember. I think it may have been like the time where I kind of saw that it was a callback, because they shared this moment in the end of this issue as these issues end, and it's so. I think it's such a great quote. I mean, I love that, like, you don't turn from battle because there's like the end goal, right? This thing that you're trying to achieve, right? You fight against all odds to try and achieve this thing, because what it is that you're trying to achieve is either right or just, or any of that. And I just think that that's such a beautiful kind of way to put that. And with that moment, we get this crazy panel where Silver Surfer is using all of this power cosmic, and he blasts away all of the darkness on him in that moment and blows away Null. We get this crazy. It's so funny to me that this is just like this kind of like little side panel here. But the page after this moment, we see Silver Surfer basically screaming, and it's like this. I don't even know what art style this is, but it's basically just like a bunch of these kind of like colorful. It's like very
It's like
vertical
lines of code, like rain pattern that's creating this face. I mean, they're just like having this insane face off and screaming at each other as Silver Surfer is literally like manifesting a huge star, and so they're kind of I don't know. They're Null's flesh,
sun. That's what he ends up making. Yeah. Great use of the word sun too.
No, it's incredible. And also just underlining that concept you were talking about because if there's little hope of victory, where then would valor be? That concept is in some other fantasy literature. I'm pretty sure Game of Thrones, where it's like bravery can only exist when there's fear. Like it's like, but I'm scared. It's like, well, that's the only time you can be brave.
Wow, that's great too.
Just the concept of hope in the face of overwhelming odds is obviously a very human. I almost said superhuman, which again it's like it is. It's one of the core traits and ideals, I think, for humanity, and it's an important thing for us to think about in our modern world. There's literally unending things to feel overwhelmed about and down on, and like there's nothing we can do, and it's so easy to just let nihilism consume us and throw our hands up and say it's all over, wrap it up. But it's very, it's important. This is all very aspirational stuff for real. Obviously this is goofy and fun, but it's also the core message is beautiful and important, and we got to keep our heads up in the face of everything.
What let's call back to fucking Watchmen, right? What does Rorschach say, right? He says, I can't remember the exact quote, but basically saying, I will not change my morals, even in impending doom. I can't remember what the fuck he says, but that is like the essence of like the same type of thing, right? And just amazing, this, and again, this is this moment too where Silver Surfer kind of has to acknowledge what it is that is going to happen here, where he says, this battle never ends. I know that I cannot stop Null, that the infant son I have birthed with the last of my cosmic power will not kill him. No, he will return. I know that I cannot defeat the darkness, not forever. And so I do what I do now, not to win, but to balance, right? And I think that that's another kind of interesting thing with and speaking of balance, like the balance between accepting the world for what it is, but still pushing for greater things, right? And that's a balance that we all have to kind of find inside of ourselves, which is just wild as well. But so he uses all of this power, and the Silver Surfer basically falls from this sun that he's created down towards this planet, and he lands there. We're actually seeing him also be totally consumed by this darkness at this point. And he goes on to say, I could almost read every single bit of dialogue, but I could read all. Okay, I'm going to read all the dialogue from basically these last 3 pages. He says, "It is the light that will burn those shadows away. My legacy, the infant life of the universe forged into galactic seeds." And these are literal seeds, drawn from the star stuff of a billion terrified worlds by ego's psychic call. For here on this nameless, barren planet is the truth of everything. Your past cannot be changed. Your shadow cannot be erased. You cannot defeat the dark. But you can find the light inside of you. Protect it. Keep it from harm. Care for it will be fragile. And then when it is strong, share it. Give it away. Shine it down upon those still trapped in the shadows, and in time perhaps the brilliance of your light will outshine the void within. And there, bathed in flame, you will be forgiven. And then from death, life. Over eons my atoms fall like seeds across the galaxy, giving life to those planets I watch die. My consciousness scattered, I am aware of their mighty breath giving chase to the winds of infinity. I watch as the ice giant Massacron forms around the tiniest flickering heat of my dying form. I hear, no, I sense in the thing I once was, the lowing creation howls of Elnor 143, which is this other planet that was destroyed. Its beautiful birth into a world that does not deserve its songs. It's also they make this planet look like it's like a planet of dogs.
Right.
Almost.
These are all callbacks to the 3 panels in the beginning of the story that we see the sea explode. Now we're seeing them be created.
Yeah. In the blackest realms of a sector unnamed, I feel the creation myths stringing together on a world that will be Draven Bar, understanding at last why they worshipped a silver god. Over and over, world across world, I have become such wondrous things. And then as these planets blossomed back into the black, as they emerge and seed back into the great abyss, slowly over endless millennia, I am remade. And in so doing, I remember who I am. Who I have become. I am Norin Rad, creator and orphan son of Zen La. I am a noble light in great unending darkness. I am a friend, an ally, a lover to most, a savior. I am known by many universe-wide as the Silver Surfer, the sentinel of the spaceways, the herald unchained. But no, not death, no longer that. The darkness I have given now, balanced with the light I have shared. And so now, my hands no longer drenched in red, I return in the black, and we get this crazy splash page of Silver Surfer Black, kind of surfing, for lack of a better term, away from this experience that just ended up happening. And all of these panels throughout this are, this cosmic, crazy, beautifully colored, just like amazing art interspersed here. And we get this crazy ending where he reaches this, and I don't know if it's right to call it like redemption, but this balance, like we've talked about, right?
Well, so, and to make clear what we see happening while this amazing, internal monologue is happening, because we're in this incredible flashback time loop, right? We literally see that Silver Surfer in the past is kind of sacrificing his own life to create life on all these planets that then eventually he sees destroyed by Galactus in the far future. So it's understanding like even these places that he has had to watch end and been traumatized by watching them end, they wouldn't have even have existed in the first place without his own sacrifice to create them in the first place. So it's all this, it's very heavy. It's very heavy stuff we're sort of dealing with here in these final pages, and again, the art we can't even do.
There's
justice
no way. Yeah, there's no way we could
describing
describe this to you in a way that will really give you everything that you need. So again, recommendation: pick this shit up.
But yeah, and then we this final panel, it's a little bit tricky to. It's not super obvious, but this chain is that's the Stormbreaker axe. So now in this final page, we're back in present time where they're all popping out of the black hole in the beginning.
Oh, wow. I didn't even, yeah, you're totally right. That's crazy.
And so this whole story has basically taken place in the, like Silver Surfer went to such great lengths to save everybody from the Guardians of the Galaxy story that he got sent all the way back into the past, went on this whole crazy arc, created life on countless planets throughout the world, almost destroyed Galactus, decided not to, had a battle with Null.
Almost destroyed him.
Almost destroyed Null. And then popped back out of all this time dilation, fully blacked out, back with the boys.
Crazy.
And now he's going forward. There's more stories and stuff we'll see where he's black. He's black. Wow. He's in this mode for some time.
That's so fire. Wow. But what a crazy end to issue number 5. And I'm going to take this moment here. I think I am actually going to read this entire letter. That Donny Cates does. But so we get this great ending portion here where it says for Stan at the bottom, and we get the original art.
This is art. It says art by Mobius.
Well, actually, so maybe this is new, but some of the original probably dialogue here at the very least. But this is where we get this: "Don't go, Galactus is too powerful. Men worship him. No one will help you. You'll be alone. You'll be destroyed." And then Silver Surfer says, "If we turn from battle because there is little hope of victory, where then would valor be? Let it ever be the goal that stirs us, not the odds." That one was like the banger, bro. Like, let it ever be the goal that stirs us, not the odds. I think that's such a good. Just like emotional, bro. Like actually, literally reading that one and then reading this note that Donny Cates writes was actually genuinely like emotional for me. Like reading that shit, I was like, damn, this is this speaks to me in a very serious way. So
that also is a call to Star Wars too, where it's Han Solo's C-3PO's like, odds of us surviving are negative, and Han Solo's like, never tell me the odds.
Yeah, right, exactly. Never tell me the odds. So I'll read this. I'm going to read this whole letter that Donny Cates does here because I think it's just such a great one, and I think is why we all, I think a demonstration of why we all love art and how our love of art comes about. But so he says, "Hey, true believers," which I think is what Stan
That's
Lee,
what Stan called readers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. "Hey, true believers. Donny here. I just wanted to take a moment and thank you all for reading this issue. Of all the works I've been fortunate to write for the House of Ideas over the years, this one will always hold a very special place in my heart. One, because I got to work with one of my dearest and oldest friends in the industry, Tradmore." Crazy again that they're like tapped in like that. He said, "I've known Trad since 2009 when we were both students at the Savannah College of Art and Design. He was that good then too, believe me. I also met Jeff Shaw there. The fact that I'm doing Silver Surfer book with my friend Trad that spins out of a Guardians of the Galaxy book that I'm doing with my friend Jeff is an embarrassment of fortunes and luck that it will never make sense to this kid over here." Also, what an embarrassment of fortunes and luck. God damn, Donny. Goes on to say, so for that, this book is fun and awesome and an absolute gift. As you can see, Trad is drawing his heart out, and to have Dave freaking Stewart color it, how did I get so lucky? But what makes it special to me, what makes it more than a dream come true to work with my friends, is what happened after I began writing it. I was sitting in an airport in Memphis writing this very issue, coming home from a con when I learned that Stan Lee had passed away. I closed my laptop, and like many others that day, I cried. And then I opened it back up, and I deleted everything I had written, and I began again. This issue had to be perfect. It had to mean something for him, for Stan. Stan long said that the Surfer was his favorite of all his creations, and if I was going to shepherd in the first Surfer series to exist without him on this earth, I was going to make sure it burned so bright that he could see it from his great cosmic chair, looking down on us mere mortals. I only met Stan a handful of times, but I'll leave you with the first and most memorable one. It was my first San Diego Comic-Con. I was a kid. I had heard that Stan was going to be there, so as soon as the doors opened, I ran to the Marvel booth to see his signing times and schedule. I arrived to find a huge amount of people in the line to enter a lottery to get his autograph. I entered it, and later that day returned to learn that I was one of the very select few to win. I lined up with everyone else to get my book signed, and I had in my hands the first issue of X-Men from 1963. Yeah, be jealous, it's rad. For him to sign. And when I got up to meet him, I was a mess. Shaking, I told him that I could never thank him enough for everything he had done for comics and for me. Stan looked up at me, smiled, and without missing a beat said, "Well, sure you can. Try." I couldn't then, Stan, but I hope I can show you now. This one is for you, boss. Thank you from all of us for everything. And I was like, damn, bro, like this, again, this is like, these are these moments and these are these things that just, I feel like make art such an incredible experience, bro. It's like, I can even get like emotional reading this shit now. I just think that's so fucking cool. But what a great set of issues. Shout out to Donny Cates. Shout out to Stan Lee. Shout out to the whole creative team on this here. Shout out to Trad Moore, Dave Stewart, Clayton Cowles, everybody that was involved in this. Just an amazing one, bro. Go pick this shit up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, man. It's just great stuff. Hey, like storytelling in general, such an important part of the human experience. This, goofy little side quest of a podcast that Antonio and I are doing is obviously mostly for fun, and we're just out here having a good time with it. But it is, reading stories, thinking about art, visual art, comics actually touches on so many profound things. And it's really cool when things can sort of get us introspective and get us in our feels a little bit, and really thinking about the legacy. And it's amazing thinking about the, Stan Lee, the legacy of Stan Lee, and how much he meant to so many people.
Yep.
And how this medium of comics started as, obviously still people look down on it a lot. I think back in the day, more justifiably so, when it was just sort of cheap children's entertainment or whatever.
Or at least it seemed like it.
Or I think to a certain extent it was in the early, it was in the early days in the I don't know, 40s, 30s, 20s, whenever, back when people were literally buying them for nickels and dimes from newsstands.
Probably buying them for less even.
Right, versus it's just cool to see that it's cool to see where an art form as trivial as comics can go. And how far it's come, and I'm sure it's going to continue to grow and go further. And it's cool for us comic novices to be appreciating it.
Yeah. We're getting to watch. We get to see, have seen, and will continue to see, an art form bloom, which I think is just so cool. But anyway, this has been Silver Surfer Black. What a crazy read! You guys should go pick this one up. I am emotionally exhausted from that last little bit there, but this was crazy. Go check us out, Kickback Comics _pod on Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. Let's talk about it. Go read this one. And thank you guys so much for listening.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.